but what I'm going to speak to you today is more a common sense thing of what is missing. I heard Mr. Upendra also speak. I echo so much of what he said, that there's something very common sense that we miss as a community, as a society, as a government, as institutions, that we do have a water crisis, and what is it that we should do? Well, my journey started off as an architect and interior designer. And when we moved back from the US to Hyderabad, the only thing I was seeing is we are managing tankers few months in a year. Now, how do I become tanker-free became a very strong intent, working with different societies and not being able to achieve much. Came to this thing that I should build a sustainable home. So for an architect or designer to build a sustainable home may not be a very unique thing. But how did I manage water, made sure that I did gray recycling, this is about 12 years ago. And in the middle of the central business district of Hyderabad, which is very prone to tankers, today we live in a home that is free of tankers. My whole journey started with this thing that I started testing the quality of tanker water that we use. And I found even E. coli in some of these samples, and that was very alarming for me. And I said, why can't we think about sustainability? Why are not we thinking beyond tankers? And that's when I started reading and studying more about what is the city doing with water, what is the kind of distribution systems, how do we get water, and the types of water, and slowly came into this. Now, this picture that you see, it's a very common scene in most of our cities, right? You don't know whether it's a pile of garbage. You have no clue what it is. I mean, we often complain or tweet about it, or some people go ahead and, register a complaint, and that's it. We don't do much about it. So I believe in our country today, we need doers. We have a lot of thinkers, but we need doers today. So see what we found below this pile of garbage, a beautiful heritage stepwell. So this is our last project. This is among the 6 stepwells we've restored in the city of Hyderabad. So I work towards urban water conservation. Coming from the design fraternity, I realized several gaps that nobody is actually focused on water conservation. And I truly believe working in a local scenario to build this engagement for water conservation, connecting communities, connecting the government, connecting the CSR. Basically, if we connect the dots in a small locality also, we have the problems and we have the solutions as well. So this is a beautiful well that we are restoring, which also happened to be mentioned by the Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji in his last Man Ki Baat. So I call it the last mile for water. So beginning with a sustainable home. This is our home in Hyderabad. You see that entire courtyard is a 30,000 liters sump just for rainwater. We use grey recycled water for growing. We grow most of our vegetables too. Drip irrigation. So all of this was practiced 12 years ago, and I saw the results coming through. Slowly I started campaigning for rainwater harvesting after having a sustainable home, and we also built a sustainable community of 100 homes became sustainable with a lot of action towards water conservation. So I understood at an individual level and a community level that this can be a winning change. So started working with the projects that we are doing and seeding action for water through the projects that I was already engaged in. And as a design studio, we started innovating. See, there's nothing called innovation in rainwater harvesting, especially in cities. It's the same old conventional methods of doing. We often complain that people don't maintain. But why can't we bring maintenance-free system or least maintenance systems which people can adopt? And there are several challenging scenarios because we come from a building background. We understand different typologies. So started working towards these solutions. While working towards this, I also started looking at the surface water bodies which are highly contaminated and people live around it. We don't do anything about it. We just complain. and we think that it's somebody else will come and do it, or it's the government's responsibility, but we often don't think that it's our sewage which is going into the lake right in front of us, and we throw litter, fill it with garbage, and there's no going back with that, and it's impacting our health in a big way. So this is all an invisible story. We refuse to understand this cycle, and we live like this. So I started working around a small lake that I picked up, understood the value of connecting communities, because if we didn't connect to communities, there's no sustainability that we can achieve. So the problems all of us know here, very well said from morning we've been hearing this, but as a city we are going to double up as a population in the next 30 years, and the development is going to double up. So what is our solution? Our groundwater is overmined. We have a huge amount of urban flooding that's happening, and contamination level. So here's what I understood in crux, this huge amount of lack of awareness. Educating the educated is the toughest, especially working in urban scenarios. Lack of strict implementation and lack of end-to-end service providers. These are problems or gaps that I understood. So while working with lake rejuvenation, I understood that the communities that I'm working with can be, the people that I'm talking to about water, about urban flooding, about pollution in water bodies, and health impacts, segregation, creating a clean catchment. So lake as the crux of a community, I started working towards this model. So also connecting to RWA, schools, slums, we often talk about rainwater harvesting or water conservation in communities or residential communities, but what about hotels? What about resorts? What about hospitals? What about institutions? What about religious organizations? So all of this need to be looped in, and if we need to cover ground. So I started sensitizing at various layers, working with government doing common area rainwater harvesting, showcasing examples in the city itself where we could become self-reliant for water. But a small area called Madhapur in Hyderabad, we spend more than 16 crores buying tankers just in 4 months, year after year, whereas the rooftops can give you enough water for the entire year for the whole population in that zone alone. So what I realized is the crisis is much bigger, but working on a one-off lake or a well, or doing common area rainwater harvesting, or working with different typologies of buildings is happening, but I'm still not working on a city-wide approach. So I'm calling it a basin here. It's not really a basin, it's a micro watershed. So we broke down the city of Hyderabad into smaller micro watersheds. For a reason, because I realized if we connect to people in a certain locality and make it a data-driven awareness, I'm able to bring this behavior change in people. So I needed to break it down to smaller localities so that I can connect with people, because I tried working at the macro level with the city water board director, with the irrigation department, with the municipality. It seemed like, it seemed like a never-ending story. I couldn't loop the whole thing together. And we gave fantastic plans, like a 60-day plan for the whole city to talk about rainwater harvesting. We gave several ideas, like painting tankers. The city owns about 800 tankers. These can become campaign material. So a lot of great ideas, but couldn't take off those ideas. So I thought working at a micro level, and the entire block as such has problems, but this block itself can be the solution as well. This is in crux. If you take any block in any city, you have lakes, you have rainwater harvesting that needs to be done on the roads, you need to restore wells, you need common area bore wells, you need huge amount of awareness, you need to plan the block, and you need cleaner lakes. So this is in crux water, which is sort of working towards an entire ecosystem in a city. So identifying locations for rainwater harvesting, it's true that we have to make it scientific also. So today we have teams with us who are watershed analysts, who are into hydrogeology, who tell us exactly what is the water scenario. And we, as coming from a design background, we try to connect it with the land use and see what are the interventions, what are the type of structures that will be suitable in a certain zone. So we started getting funds, from grants, from smaller crowdfunding, agencies, and started doing common area rainwater harvesting, where clean water, see there's something called ethical recharge. We can't have like sewage water going into these deeper aquifers because Hyderabad has got a very challenging strata. Most of it is rock. So we need to inject water deeper to the, even deeper to the shallow aquifers or deeper aquifers. So ethical recharge can happen within communities or just around the communities. So that is something we talked about. And this is the first block that we picked up. You can see we've done a well restoration, we've done a lake restoration, we've done more than 30 injecting pits in a common area. Even in the lakes, we started creating something called a clean catchment. We designed a stainless steel drain screen which can stop the garbage from entering the lake. And there itself, it's recycled and, the GHMC, we enable the GHMC to pick it up from there. And then we are working with several methods today for the water quality treatment, including solar-powered aeration and stuff. So you can see the change for the lake and the well from where to where. So it also started impacting the health, the stench, and all of this. And so we also started working with a lot of builders, architects, MEPs, and creating this zero discharge societies, right? It's not just individual homes, but farm plots, working with industries, working with institutions, because all of this is necessary. All of this becomes part of the larger story. Connecting with builders, collecting with commercial builders, and also creating a win-win situation for the real estate guys where you don't lose space-saver rainwater harvesting methods. These are all 1 lakh liter tanks which are done under the roads. These are modular systems which has injecting bores in between them. And these don't need to be opened up at all. We only need to maintain the desilting pits. We started working on wells and heritage step wells. We took it on a war footing because every time we map a well, we go back in a year's time and you don't find the well. So we thought this needs a lot of attention, so we started working. So I go to the government to take permission letters, but we try to see that we try to get our own funds by different methods. Again, this is a very landmark area in Hyderabad. It's called GachiBowli. If you see, Gach means lime, Bowli means a well. So GachiBowli is known all over the world for its IT industry and being the central business district in Hyderabad. But it's named after a humble Bowli, which no one found till date. We found that well. It took us 2 years to find out. It was just a pile of garbage. It happened to be a heritage step well, so putting conservation architects into, created a team with conservation architects. We restored the well. It was right next to the masjid. So the masjid also is water intensive. There's about 2,000 people that come. And for wuzu, they use, each person uses a liter and a half for prayers. So we started talking to them about how water intensive they are, and this well is going to restored their couple of bore wells. And today they have taken up the maintenance of this step well because it's not important just restoring, but who will maintain, how they will maintain. And as design team, we also put the footprint of the well in the sense we do the drawings, we geotag them, we make sure they never go back to the garbage scenario, and also connecting the rooftop water of the masjid, rooftop water of the madrasa next to it, and home which was right to create that behavior change. This is a Goshala, they were buying tankers, they have more than 2,000 cows. So we connected all the rooftop sheds. They had large sheds, rooftop water to their wells. We desilted their wells. They had a couple of heritage wells. And today they are not dependent on tankers. Another well which was just abandoned on one of the roads, we took it up, and we also did this trenching and did this filtration pit. So directly it is not sent to the well, but indirectly water goes into the well. So the project for the GachiBowli, we convinced a school to take it up. We said, instead of giving your students some imaginary project, get them to be connected with this restoration and fund this project. So they were more than happy to fund this project. I never knew till then that the school also could give CSR. But I just tried my luck and it happened. And the children did more than 200 projects on this stepwell and understood a lot more. And some wells we restored with crowdfunding, some with corporate funding. So we find our own funds, and we think that like the GachiBowli, the school was right in that same zone. So if you pick a block, like I said, the problems are there, the solutions are also there. How to connect them and cross-connect with communities. So just that GachiBowli well connected to a few thousand students and a few thousand people. So there itself we connected with a lot of communities and made that project sustainable. So also creating rain gardens and creating sustainable action around these well restorations that we do. Coming from the design fraternity, we can rethink these spaces in a very interesting way. In one place, we did an amphitheater, which can become like an eco-green space where people don't throw garbage again, never to litter in these spaces. So we have to rethink in today's context, which seems to be a great model to work around. This is the heritage well which I showed you, the first picture that I showed you. It was completely filled up for 42 plus years. It's got a 22 lakh liter water holding capacity. Sorry. So once we restored this well, now the phase 1 is over. The phase 2 is happening with conservation architects. We were able to bring together a fund which is almost 1 crore rupees for this well. And now the government has taken up, it's become a prestigious project for them. They've taken up the precinct development, for which we have given them the plan, and they are trying to create. We've given the plan that it can be created like a plaza or a square, a public square with the well. Also started working with peri-urban areas. You find a lot of very enthusiastic collectors, so working with them to restore wells. And this is another district called Narayanpet. This well was restored, and we curated an event there. And there's a festival called Batkama. It's a festival of flowers that happen in Telangana. So we did this Batkama festival around that. We curated the entire event and showcased it like a tourist place. The more than 3,000 people from different parts of the district participated in that. So once it is showcased as a great public space, it also brings back the relevance of water. Though our work is towards water, but all these little things that we do around it makes the project sustainable. This is another event we created where the entire village came together to work on this event. So the other projects we are working towards is making parks as rainwater harvesting zones. See, there are a lot of energy that goes into lake encroachments, fighting for this, fighting for that. But I believe there are so many low-hanging fruits which we can turn around easily, and we need to focus on these. A simple thing like a park can be connected to a community, and they can invest, in these rainwater harvesting pits and make it sustainable and improve the groundwater and work towards the shallow aquifer management. There are a lot of lake peripheries which suffer majorly during floods. So creating this kind of retention ponds and stuff will not erase the slums which keep getting flooded and they keep getting deep displaced over year after year, and a lot of dengue deaths happen here. So how we help them and sort of rejuvenate that water quality, creating these banana plantations and phytoremediating. So this is something we are still working with the government to create rainwater harvesting for this huge amount of water that comes down from the flyovers. So we want to pilot this project, and also working with municipalities to do large level awareness and creating people on ground who are social champions in the localities, getting them a card which says social auditor or a water auditor, where people in that locality go and map and give us the data on ground, who has rainwater harvesting, who does not have rainwater harvesting, who have STP but do not run it. So all this data, we collect it, we map it and hand it over to the municipal administration, and also tell them what type of structures can be done. So we have been successful to do 10 large structures in this one municipality we are working. So what we are trying to do is creating replicable models, simple models that works. And so we've been able to connect not only to the city, but also to the state government. And they have applauded a lot of our efforts. We continue to work a lot on awareness, and each block we have trained several plumbers, because we think plumbers can be the ambassadors for change. We technically train them. They can come to us anytime and we train them. And it is a livelihood for them. And if a plumber goes and convinces a community where they are used to, the people, they listen to them and they do these rainwater harvesting pits. So training plumbers and getting them certificates from the government. So all our work, whatever started as a true citizen effort for my own home, today has transformed into this. We always underestimate what a single individual can do, but I'm very hopeful that each one of us need to be in this journey, and each one of us can be the change in our own capacities and capabilities, taking water seriously and working towards this conservation is very, very important. Thank you so much.